Hi all, and welcome to my Penguin Adult Highlights for Spring 2022. So there are 4 different presentations I have up currently, and if you're looking for an overview of our promotions, please watch the Knot Doubleday Adult Highlights, and that's where you'll find me run down everything. Also, if you're looking for a rundown of what you must have for the holidays, we did a wonderful presentation a few weeks ago, all of my colleagues from the Indie team, and if you haven't seen it, I can send you the link to the presentation. It's really the best thing to make sure that you're going to be all up to stock. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get going on Penguin Spring 2022. All right, we're going to start off with cookbooks. I do hope that you've had lunch or supper or breakfast. And our very first cookbook is something that's special. It is not just a cookbook, it's a combination memoir with recipes. And Suzanne Barr is a really special chef in person. And this is her story of how she started as a chef. And basically, her mother was sick and going through chemo, and she learned how to cook and was incredible. She has founded her own restaurant called the Saturday Dinette in Toronto, which is wonderful. She also made it a really welcoming place for chefs who are just beginning, maybe chefs who are single mothers, maybe chefs with children who also needed childcare. It was a welcoming environment where people were invited to grow. And she also has offered adjusted hours, lots of flexibility. Her food is incredible. She is one of North America's most respected chefs. And she has a recipe in there for chicken that you absolutely need to make. She calls it, I think it's her $250,000 chicken, because it's something that convinced an investor to invest in her and her restaurants. Best comparison for this would be Notes from a Young Black Chef, but also Measure of My Powers by Jackie K. Ellis, which did wonderfully a few years ago, which has an amazing combination of memoir and stellar recipes. And if you have people who are fans of blood, bones, and butter, they will also like this. Yes, so we can see that it's combination photo and text. And there we go. It's, sorry, I said $250,000. It's 100K curry chicken, but yeah, it's absolutely delicious. I have made this recipe, and you see it says, a man walked into my kitchen and said he wanted to help me because this was the best meal he ever ate, and you can make it for yourself. Cake and Loaf. I love an achievable baking book, and Cake and Loaf is just that. They are a bakery in Hamilton, but this book is not Hamilton or Ontario centric. Really, it's all about the bakes, and the bakes are fabulous. They make achievable, affordable treats, cookies, squares, bars, donuts, and of course, cakes and loaves. And they're also known as employers who provide a wonderful living wage, and they value a safe work environment, which means we just want to support them even more. If you have people who nab Jenna Raid and Dessert Person and Bobette and Belle off the shelves, they will absolutely want this as well. They generally do really interesting, non-traditional recipes that still have familiar tastes. Here we have unicorn bars. You can see it kind of looks like funfetti on the bottom. And then this absolutely gorgeous hazelnut crunch cake. They aren't recipes that will require a ton of special equipment. Don't worry, they're totally achievable for the home baker. Good for your gut. So this is certainly a trend that we're seeing in cookbooks right now, gut-centered eating and recipes that focus on supporting the microbiome. Desiree Nelson is fabulous. She is a registered dietitian. So what she says has scientific value behind it and training. She also is the author of Eat More Plants, which sold really, really well. And this book is part nutritional guide. The beginning has a lot of information all about eating for your gut, foods that will support gut health, etc. And then the second half of the book is all recipes that will help you with your gut health. Okay, and the Two Spoons cookbook. This is delicious French vegan cooking. And I know you all sell the Buddhist chefs, so you definitely can sell Two Spoons as well. Hannah Sundarani is the author of the popular Two Spoons blog. Check it out if you want to troll over some delicious recipes. And these are all French-inspired vegan recipes, and she truly makes magic with vegan ingredients. I could not believe it. She makes a plant-based non-butter croissant, which is sorcery because croissants are 75% butter. We all know that. And also in terms of a trend, vegan cooking has not slowed down. A lot of people who aren't vegans love throwing in vegan recipes to their diet in order to get more plants in there. So if you have people who love Lauren Toyota and Hot for Food, they will absolutely love Two Spoons as well. So here we see the magic croissants and a gorgeous lemon tart, something that would look perfect in a patisserie window and is all vegan. Okay, so one of the most intense cookbook authors I know of, J. Kenji Lopez Alt. Foodies are very familiar. They are the chef who is responsible for The Food Lab, which is a mega bestseller in Canada as well as the rest of North America. We sold 40,000 copies in Canada. So you might be looking at the $66 price point and thinking, no way, not for a cookbook. But Food Lab sold 40,000 copies. They are just an amazingly particular chef and author. And this is all about how to use the wok. So we've seen this trend from chefs recently, like David Chang and his Cooking at Home book, but J. Kenji is now a parent. He has children at home. They can't always make a 5-course gourmet meal. So they really walk you through, sorry, no pun intended. They really walk you through techniques that you can use to make building blocks of meals. So see, we have how to stir fry chicken, how to stir fry pork, and of course, all you need is a really good wok. Perfect. And you can see just how technical and broken down everything is. He is truly a mad food scientist. So we have all our types of rice varieties broken down. So you can learn how to make really reliable rice of any type as well. And Kenji's also connected to a huge slew of chefs and food culture, and is sure to be having some media spots and interviews. Moving right along to fiction. Okay, so we are starting with Tides. And not only is Sarah Friedman, the author, a Canadian, she is a Montreal author, which is just what we want to hear. This is really high caliber literary fiction. It's about a woman who walks out on her life and her husband, and we don't quite know why at the beginning. And she basically washes up at this seaside town and scavenges off food left by tourists. And eventually she gets a job at a wine store, and her connection with the owner of the wine store makes her actually face what she's run away from and what she's still running from. It's beautiful. It's very much poetic in the style of Maggie Nelson or Jenny Offill or Rachel Cusk. But there's also some suspense there because we're not quite sure what has made her run. Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. This book is a romp for sure. It's scathing satire all about 2017 and Mugabe getting overthrown from power, told in the style of Animal Farm. So everyone is an animal. Yes, they have cell phones and the same cultural touch point of us, but the dictator of this country is an old horse who one day falls. It is just so wonderful. She captures the mood and the paradox of the situation, how crazy it was, and the animals are used because it's just the strangeness needed something strange to fully encapsulate it. Yeah, if you love White Tiger, then you will absolutely love this as well. She's won lots of awards. She has this biting, razor sharp humor as well. Okay, An Unthinkable Thing. This is Paperback Trade Original. And this is something you want to put right next to your Sherry LaPena. It's kind of a domestic thriller with bite to it as well. by Nicole Lundgren. This is looking at the story of a young boy who's been raised by his aunt while his mother works at a very wealthy family's home. And they don't like kids, even though they have one, so they won't allow him to leave there with him. And when his aunt is murdered, he's allowed to go live with this family and his mother for a time, but it doesn't take long being there to realize that there is something very off going on, especially with the family's son. I love that cover with the fishbowl in the crack represents a tension that runs throughout this narrative. And for readers of The End of Her and Invisible Girl and Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware, they will love to reach for this as well. I Was the President's Mistress. You have to love a title with 2 exclamation points in it. And this is from Miguel Sujuco, who is the Man Agent Award-winning author of Illustrato. This book is just as witty and fun. Basically, it's all about a government sex scandal that reminded me of, Bunga Bunga and Berlusconi, but this is taking place in the Philippines, and it has the best scandal name ever. It's called Sexy Sexy Gate. It's told from the perspective of the president's former mistress, who, she realizes that she's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but she is going to help others take the president down. It's told through transcripts and interviews. There's movie stars and characters who are all orbiting this character as well. It is really wonderful, of course, for previous fans of Illustrato, but also Savage Detectives in a Burning by Megan Majumdar, which was incredible. Yeah, and bonus, he is a Montreal author as well. When We Fell Apart, Sune Wiley. So this novel, I was able to read it, and it is a novel at its core about Asian identity, packaged in kind of a thriller format. It is trade paperback original as well. So this is the US cover, but I wanted to show you something. And basically it starts, we're following a young girl who has moved to Seoul for university. And she has gone through the extremely rigorous high school system in Korea. And then we also follow her boyfriend, who is mixed race. He's half Korean, and he's an expat from the United States. He moved to Seoul to get a better sense of his identity, but then finds that he's just not really fitting in anywhere. The young woman is found dead, and the authorities are saying it's suicide, and her boyfriend just can't believe it. So we have this suspense story and detective story throughout, through these dual perspectives, but it's also really a story about a culture and identities and immigration and the American dream transposed onto other countries. There's a lot of depth here. It's for readers of Everything I Never Told You or Such a Fun Age, with all the identity themes running throughout. It really is the sweet spot in fiction. Okay, Every Summer After. So this is actually on the Indie Picks list, and it was Anika's favorite. I read it as well. It's an incredible rom-com with a lot of depth and heart, but take a peek at my Knopf Doubleday presentation, which is where I talk about all our Indie Picks promo books. All right, this is another book with a big price tag, but it is going to be a publishing event. Olga Tokarczuk, I'm sure I'm butchering that, but I try my best. I looked up pronunciation guides. She won the Nobel Prize for Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. And this is her first book since then. It is a tome. It is 992 pages. And it has the same kind of granular research behind it as Hilary Mantel in the Wolf Hall series. This is all about a messianic cultish leader. I don't know that they would say that they were a cult leader, but certainly there are those kind of elements sweeping across the European continent in the 1800s. It really is an epic in terms of scale, in terms of length, in terms of the work that has been put into it. Vagabonds, very exciting new fiction from Elogosa Osunde. They are a Nigerian writer, and this is a story that takes place in Lagos. And vagabonds is actually a legal term in Nigeria for people who are kind of living outside the law and outside social norms. This was a preempted debut. Everyone was very excited about it. And it features people who are seen as outcasts, the poor, the queer, the vulnerable. And it is really a story about found family and how most are ultimately saved by the love that made them vagabonds to begin with. I have a feeling that this might be a contender / name for high profile award later this spring. Text for You, something completely different, really, really fun, paperback original. This has already been picked up as a major motion picture starring Sam Heughan, who we all know from Outlander and many other things, and Priyanka Chopra. And oh my goodness, I can't forget this, of course, when I'm speaking, especially to the Montreal Book Fair and booksellers, that Celine Dion will be in the movie. I can't wait to see what she does. She's so wonderful. So this story is basically about a young widow who lost her husband tragically and suddenly. And as a way to try to move on from her grief, one day, years later, she just starts texting his old number. But little does she know that this number has been reassigned. And across town, of course, Sam Heughan's character is getting these heartfelt texts from an unknown number that he knows nothing about. And then they end up texting each other and, of course, making a wonderful connection. Booth by Karen Joy Fowler, the author of We Are All Completely Besides Ourselves. This is a family generational epic saga about the Booth family, who are perhaps most famous for producing John Wilkes Booth, of course, Lincoln's assassin. But really it talks about the family, who were a family of actors, and their role in American history. It is really well researched for all you Geraldine Brooks and Hilary Mantel readers. Like a House on Fire. This is a novel that has buzz behind it already. I can see it blowing up absolutely, like maybe Lauren Groff, Fates and the Furies. And it is the story of, it's basically a fictional version of Untamed. So if you have people who love Glennon Doyle, I think they will really like this as well. It stars a woman in her 40s with kids who at a turning point in her life meets Jane, another woman in her 40s with kids, and she realizes that the love of her life isn't her husband, but it's Jane as the person who makes her feel the most alive. Also for fans of, I mentioned Glennon Doyle and Lauren Groff, but I think Emma Straub and Liz Gilbert are great comparisons as well. Whoop. Okay, What the Fireflies Knew. This is exciting for a couple reasons, but you might remember from my last presentation, probably not, it was months ago, but Penguin in the States is launching a new imprint with Phoebe Robinson, who is an incredible essayist, but also the star of Two Dope Queens TV show and podcast, who has legions of fans. She is launching her own imprint called Tiny Reparation Books that are going to focus on BIPOC voices, publishing 6 to 7 books a year, a mix of fiction and nonfiction. And What the Fireflies Knew is the first book from that imprint. So it's going to have a lot of muscle behind it. It's a wonderful launch. And this is the story of a young girl who has lost her father to an overdose, and she moves with her mother to live back with his grandfather. Her voice is just incredible. It's a stunning coming of age story, and everything is told from her point of view. It's engaging, funny, yet sad, kind of like Miriam Toews in that way. It's a totally fantastic package. Oh, I also want to flag that I do mention this throughout all 4 of my presentations, that we have a fabulous Black History Month promo. Lots of friend list on it. What the Fireflies Knew is a book that will be on it as well. Portrait of a Thief. So this is the second book from Tiny Reparations. I'm really excited about this one. Basically, it's a story about reclaiming art. So our lead is Will Chen, who's a Harvard art student, and he's hired by a Chinese corporation to steal, or as they say, reclaim, 5 sculptures that were lost centuries ago when they were smuggled by Americans from China. It's already been optioned by Netflix. I love this cover so much. And really, it brings up a lot of important questions about art and artifact ownership, as well as having all the fun of a heist. The Paris Bookseller. This is historical fiction based on Sylvia Beach, who was the founder of the famous Paris bookshop, Shakespeare and Company, and among other things, she was known for being the first to publish James Joyce, Ernest Hemingway, Ezra Pound, all of those modernists. And she was an incredible woman. This is perfect for French speakers and Francophiles, and it's also publishing on the 100th anniversary of Ulysses. She's an exceptional woman. She defended freedom of speech, and it's a total celebration of booksellers as well. Take My Hand. So Dolen Perkins Valdez, she's been publishing for a while, but this is her first book with us, and it is inspired by true events. This is another historical fiction pick. It would be excellent for a book club. And it's about a Black nurse in 1970s Alabama who finds out that her patients are suffering an unimaginable violation when they're being sterilized against their will. This was something that was absolutely happening. And she becomes a whistleblower for all your readers of The Vanishing Half and any stellar historical fiction. Adult Assembly Required, Abby Waxman. So we know Abby from The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. This is her next book. Again, she writes these wonderful rom-coms with heart. $23, trade paperback original. And this is actually Return of the Characters from The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. I would absolutely package this with Emily Henry, which I know is doing well in stores. And speaking of Emily Henry, here we go. We have her newest book lovers, From People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read, which I read and it was fabulous. This is a literary agent rom-com. So not only do we get the wonderful romance, we also get all the booky insights that we love getting from Emily Henry. Oh, and I did forget to mention that's a trade paperback original as well. The Family Chow. This book already has so much love. Lance Samantha is the director of the Iowa Writers Workshop, which is legendary. And she is so well connected. She has taught Ya Gyasi. She has taught Eleanor Catton, Carmen Maria Machado, and so many legions of others. She is a master storyteller. And this is all about the family Chow, who I love this quote, I can't do better than this. This reviewer said, it's the Brothers Karamazov set in a Chinese restaurant in the Midwest. It involves a death in the family that they try to keep quiet and then realize that they've had all the attention drawn to them in a way they're not exactly fond of. Poetry. It is so rare that I have a poetry section in one of these presentations, but what a treat. I have 3 wonderful poetry volumes that I'd strongly encourage all of you to take in. I'm just going to take a sip of water here. Okay, starting with, no, I can't say this is the one that I'm most excited about because I'm excited about all of them, but Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head. This is paperback original, and if Warsan Shira's name looks familiar, it's probably because you know her as a collaborator on Beyonce's Lemonade. You can't get much more of an impressive credential than that. She won the African Poetry Prize at 25. This is really, truly remarkable poetry. She is also an amazing self-promoter. So I think this goes beyond fans of poetry who are only seeking it out. Really, it's for people who read Split Tooth and for readers of Ija Wele or Why We Should All Be Feminists. And also Rupi Kaur, Sun in Her Flowers. I would shelve Warsaw next to Rupi any day. Yes. Okay, and then this is the only edition of hardcover poetry I'm going to show you. Unusual for me to show hardcover poetry, but this is Ocean Vuong, who shot to the top of the best book list with On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous. This is his collection of poetry. It's been highly anticipated and is sure to win lots of awards. And this is mostly focused on the pain of his mother's sudden passing. All the Flowers Kneading. So this is trade paperback Kneeling. This is trade paperback original and another stellar collection. The author is non-binary, using they, them pronouns. This is non-linear and groundbreaking. It's about the transformation of a non-binary body after violence and abuse. It has huge breakout potential, and this author is incredibly well connected. This is going to get rave reviews and endorsements, and it's already starting. On to nonfiction. Otherlands. Again, this is the UK cover, but I wanted to show you something so fun. It's basically armchair travel to extinct ecosystems, definitely for readers of Sapiens. It takes you through basically the history of natural history from 550 million years ago to the most recent ice age. You get to explore 16 worlds that just don't exist anymore. There's 16 chapters. They all take you from one site to the other. There are some illustrations throughout. This is for all your readers of the Sixth Extinction, Sapiens, and Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. He is also I have to say his credentials, because he is a very well-known paleobiologist, and there are illustrations throughout. The Next Age of Uncertainty by Stephen Pullos. So this is the next big Canadian economics book. It's from the former governor of the Bank of Canada. And if you sold Mark Carney's values at all, you absolutely can sell this. Really, that's the most important comparison, and that's one of the most important things to know. It's a book that speaks to you in plain terms about economic trends, interest rates, and really whether you consider yourself liberal or conservative. This is for everyone who is wondering about the global economy. Run Towards the Danger, a memoir that I'm personally really excited about. Sarah Polley is a national treasure. We know her as a child star and actress, of course, Road to Avonlea, but we also know her as an incredibly talented and cool director. She's been Oscar nominated for her screenwriting and direction, and this is her memoir about some of the most dangerous moments in her life that she sees as life-changing. She is going to get so much media. I feel like this might, if I had a sticker for the book that will get the most CBC coverage, I might put it right on this one. It's going to be one of our biggest releases of the year, and there's already plans to have excerpts in the New Yorker. Cat and Nat's Mum Secrets. So this is from the same Cat and Nat team who brought you Mom Truths. So Mom Truths was really about the younger stage of having kids, and now this is about older children. They are a total mom friend phenomenons. They are bigger now than they were when the first book came out. And this kind of goes into deeper thoughts about what it means to be a mother to kids now that they're school age. And there's lots of advice and funny stories in this. And really it's about not holding yourself to impossible standards. Regenesis by George Monbiot. This is a paperback trade original. And really at its core, it is about the world is going through a climate crisis, and we are also going through a food crisis. And climate policy intersects with food policy. We need to find a way to feed ourselves without destroying the planet. Basically, he talks about a way to do that without bulldozing the rainforest and driving all species to extinction. The backbone of this book, which is really great, is that there is a solution. He has ideas to solve these problems, and you'll all be really relieved to hear that they are not about eating crickets. Okay, I'm moving on to some of the American offerings for nonfiction, starting with Black American refugees. So yes, there's America right in the title, which might make some of you guarded at first, but this is an issue that extends to us. This started as an essay that Tiffany Drayton basically talks about how she feels as though she has to leave her country because she is not safe living there as a Black woman. And certainly there have been travel warnings from Amnesty International and other international NGOs about how dangerous America can be, especially for people of color. Canada is also reconsidering its policy in terms of letting Black Americans or Americans in general claim asylum coming from the US. It is just super relevant. She also wrote Hood Feminism, which did really well. And this is also going to be part of our front list offering for the Black History Month promotion. Daniel Pink, not the first time you have seen his name. He is the author of When and Drive, and really just a stellar nonfiction, kind of self-help backed by science author. This one looks at regret and how our own regret helps us understand ourselves and also helps us be better partners, better friends, and generally better people. The Invisible Kingdom. All right, this is another trend that we are seeing, books about chronic illness. And this is a issue that's not going away anytime soon. There's been a rise in chronic illness and autoimmune disease. This is a memoir, but really it also looks into the topic in general. She is the perfect person to write this as she deals with her own chronic illness. And it's accessible with a really wide-reaching subject as well. Something we need more information on. This might win the award for my favorite title, long as it is. There are places in the world where rules are less important than kindness. Carlo Rovelli. Listen, this is a physics book that I would read. He's the author of 7 Brief Lessons of Physics, and he basically looks at the ethical implications of physics. So how philosophy and politics enter into science. And he covers everything from Newton's alchemy to Einstein to even Dante's cosmology. It really packs a punch. And then this is for all our Gen Xers. Chuck Klosterman, the 90s. He's an author we know who has been around for a long time. He's a best-selling author. He's going to make all of the big podcast circuit. Wouldn't be surprised if we hear him on Joe Rogan. And this focuses on the impact of the internet, how that has really changed life. It's fun, it's interesting, it's peak nostalgia. And there's going to be a ton of interviews, as I said. Next one, Nasty, Brutish, and Short by Scott Hershovitz. This may take my pick for the parenting book of the year. So Scott is the director of the ethics program at the University of Michigan, and also he went to Yale Law School. He has his doctorate in philosophy. He knows what he's talking about. And he noticed his 2 sons often reenact the kind of big philosophical arguments by testing and exploring boundaries and talking about why things are the way they are. So he's mashed them together in this wonderful book about how crazy kids can be. I love this. One of my colleagues was saying her niece the other day asked her why time was a marshmallow. It's full of those kind of questions, and he really delves into it with a lot of insight and a great sense of humor. Okay, Finance for the People, Paco de Leon. This is trade paperback original. And I have to say, during the pandemic, a lot of people who never had before got into stocks, got into investings, really got into their finances. And this is an illustrated practical guide to helping you navigate your financial life, no matter where you are in terms of maybe being able to invest, taking your way out of debt, looking at buying your first house. And it was won at a hot auction. This is a title that lots of people wanted, and it forces us to examine and reshape our underlying beliefs. But what I love is he talks about money in a practical and accessible way. A lot of times with investment in the stock market, it's designed to be as complicated as possible. So we don't understand unless you have a specialized degree. He really walks you through everything. And if you're following along on your either book manager or Catalyst catalog, you should be able to see some spreads as well for examples of the infographics. Don't worry. Just going to take a moment and pause here. So this is something that we also could all use. I mean, anxiety has spiked over the past 2 years. And these are 48 lessons from a Zen Buddhist monk. It's really practical. It's a very practical look at mindfulness. If I know myself, sometimes I struggle with finding mindfulness is too abstract. Maybe some principles seem too woo-woo, but this really breaks it down in a way that you understand and feel like you can apply to your own life. It declutters your brain like Marie Kondo declutters your house. All right, definitely another trend that I'm seeing in self-help books is productivity guilt. And I didn't do the thing today, it tackles just that. It's all about how to overcome guilt associated with not getting your to-do list done, but also larger guilt. Like, you know, some people are saying, hey, during this pandemic, if you didn't learn another language, what were you doing? I don't know about you, but I was working. So it also deals with the larger guilt you can feel about not constantly pursuing your best self, whatever that is. They also, Madeline Dore also has a wonderful podcast, and she includes throughout this book a series of experiments you can perform with yourself. Get things done, live your life, but don't worry about checking all the boxes. Toxic positivity. This is another trend that I'm seeing in self-help for sure, by Whitney Goodman. And it really has to do with the idea that saying good vibes only isn't really the right thing to say. It's ignoring actual feelings and issues that are coming up. And it's best to actually deal with the difficult emotions rather than obsess with presenting a positive front. This is a really hot topic in psychology and therapy, but it's also come up a lot in terms of talking about racism and discrimination. This is a takedown of the idea of positivity at all costs, and it's also a really practical guide. Okay, so we all remember Hygge, or it's spelled Higgy, which is how I thought it was pronounced for a long time. I guess it's Hygge. This is the new Hygge. It's Everyday Sisu, and it is based on the Finnish way of life. The author has lived in Finland for quite a while, and she sees Finnish culture is built on 7 principles, all positive, all ones that we certainly could use. So what Sisu asks you to do is connect with nature, strengthen your community, use what you have, reframe what you can't control, adopt a solution-based mindset, and find strength within the struggle. All of that seems like something that we could benefit from. This is a lovely hardcover gifty book, and there are some illustrations throughout. So our author was also raised in Canada, even though she is currently living in Finland. If there was ever time to give a teacher a gift, it would be at the end of this year. Oh my God, what they have dealt with. This is just a really fun gift book because teachers don't need another mug. They just don't. They have enough at this point. It's a hilarious activity book where you ask teachers to do things like solve the word scramble of all the useless things they're forced to teach, or color in the helicopter parent, etc. It's just a cute gift to let a teacher know that you appreciate everything they do. Okay, I'm moving into offerings from DK now. DK is a really big list. It is not something I have time to cover in depth for these presentations, but I just want you to let you know, if you take a look at the DK catalog separately, there are tons of offerings there, especially all the eyewitness and travel guides. So I'm not going to present all the travel and language books, but I'm going to show you some biggest offerings from them for this span. Starting with the tree book, I mean, Search for the Mother Tree and the Overstory and I Speak for the Trees. All of those books have been so popular over the past couple of years. It seems like there's no slowing down the interest in learning more about forests and trees. And the tree book is another guide that will walk you through it. It's a beautiful, big, full colored, glossy, gifty format. Okay, another thing that doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon is crystals, and crystals as a component of wellness. This is a well photographed book, something that DK does the best. It's full colored, glossy, big pages, hardcover, the perfect coffee table book for the crystal lover in your life. All right, I have quite a few gardening books because 'tis the season, and we're starting with Grow Cook Dyeware. This is really a gardening book that encompasses kind of all the options, everything you can do with your plants. So it shows you how to prepare meals and how to use certain foods, such as they have beets on the cover, to actually dye and update your wardrobe. These little guides, they're 17.50 paperback. They're a smaller trim size, and they truly are wonderful. This is more my speed for gardening, and they walk you through how to do just one thing really well. They're good for a variety of spaces because you can grow herbs inside, on your balcony, or of course outdoors as well. And then we have low maintenance, also definitely my speed for gardening. They're going to teach you how to plant the best bulbs and when. And this is wonderful, how to garden when you rent. So what you can do with your outdoor space or maybe on your patio or balcony without angering your landlord and losing your damage deposit. Okay, another trend. Everyone is into mushrooms now. People are taking foraging classes, and this is a wonderful guide of how you can take a walk in your local park and transform it into something great to eat. You definitely shouldn't go picking mushrooms without a guide, so maybe pick this up if you're planning to do that this spring. And the Simply guides, another DK classic, $22.99 in hardcover. We just have two offerings for this band. They all have very bold graphics inside. So whether you're actually actively studying math or maybe like me, it's been a while and you can't answer the math section on Jeopardy anymore because you've forgotten everything. This will give you a nice essential run through. And then exact same concept for psychology. Next one, the feminism book. These big idea, big books from DK are really wonderful. They take an incredibly complicated issue and they will break it down and give you a whirlwind worldwide tour. So far we have the feminism book. We also have a book on Black history, the Bible, and mythology. And then this is just such a sunshiny, happy cover. How could you not look at it and be happy? A lot of people have gotten pandemic pets and they're needing to train them, especially as we return to work. This is just a wonderful basic guide on how to make sure that you have a well-behaved dog at home. Okay, The Stranger Beside Me and Rule. I'm sure you folks have heard that title before. This is a brand new package. And a couple important things about this. This is the 40th anniversary of The Stranger Beside Me. And there has been an explosion of interest in Ted Bundy over the past few years. There have been movies starring Zac Efron. There have been several documentaries. And the other very important thing to know about this is that the foreword is brand new and written by Georgia Hardstark, who is one of the co-hosts of one of the top podcasts in the world, the true crime podcast, My Favorite Murder. I can't stress this enough. People who are fans of this podcast and fans of Georgia and Karen, the host, if they see their name on it, they absolutely will pick this up. Ray Ewing, a comic about gender. So this is the only graphic novel offering I have from the adult side of Penguin. And this is really beautiful. It celebrates the diversity that comes from of experiences that occur in the transgender community in a comic about gender for grown-ups. Okay, so you may recognize Koto Nishimura from if you watch Queer Eye. When they went to Japan, they spoke to Koto. He is a celebrity makeup artist as well as an ordained Buddhist monk. This is a fabulous book about accepting all sides of yourself and practicing positive self love. There's a lot to learn through this book, but it's also the story of a truly fascinating life. This monk wears heels. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through our paperback offerings. I'm not going to have a whole lot to say about all of them, but here we go. We'll do a quick tour. The Absolute Book, which was available in hardcover last year. This is an epic fantasy story, now in paperback. Dead Mom Walking, Rachel Matlow, Canadian. This was shortlisted for the Emerging Writer Prize. It truly is a striking memoir. If you skip this one, don't skip this paperback format. It was out in paperback with flaps before. Now it's 1995. It's all about basically Rachel. Her mother was someone who always believed in alternative treatments. And when she was diagnosed with a highly curable form of cancer, she decided she wasn't going to do chemo or radiation. She was going to forge her own path with natural antidotes. Definitely a story that is more relevant than ever. Then Finding the Mother Tree. This has just sold and sold and sold and sold. It was an instant national and international bestseller, offering now in paperback. And I do believe Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal have just picked up the movie rights. Then we have Yearbook. We all know and love Seth Rogen. This was such a hilarious memoir. I mean, he has personal experiences with everyone in Hollywood. It's pretty hilarious. Great gift book. If you don't have this in hardcover for the holidays, actually, I'd bring it in. I think there's going to be renewed interest, and paperback next year. Then we have Painkiller, A Memory of Big League Addiction. So this is Brant Meyer's memoir of playing for the NHL while also being severely addicted to painkillers. He is one of the only people to be banned from the NHL for life. It is quite the story. It's amazing that he's come out at peace and alive. He played for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Philadelphia Flyers, San Jose's Shark, Nashville Predators, Boston Bruins, Washington Capitals. It seems like most of the NHL. Data Detective. And this is a wonderful book about how valuable statistics are, how numbers aren't the enemy, and how they are really invaluable guides. My Year Abroad, Chang-Rae Lee. You can see it says instant national bestseller. This is wonderful, now in paperback. And no one is talking about this. Another national bestseller, currently up for the Booker. Love that cover. And finally, this is one that has been pushed off for quite a while with good reason, because it just has never stopped selling. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. We can see all the awards on the cover, now in paperback. Then we have The Sanatorium. Again, put this in your domestic thriller section. Put it next to Sherry LaPena. Put it next to Agatha Christie if you have it on the shelves. All about a woman who goes to visit a sanatorium for vacation, and then something is clearly wrong. I love that blurb from People. It's The Shining, but with a full house. Very accurate description. Then we have The Giver of Stars. This is Jojo Moyes in mass market now. We always love a book that features librarians, and this is about a librarian program where librarians were given basically books and horses and sent to deliver the books to the people. Then we have Northern Spy. No, this is not about the Civil War. Don't worry. It's set in Ireland, and it's a pair of sisters who are entangled with the IRA. Martha Beck, The Way of Integrity, another New York Times instant bestseller. And The Prophets. This is such a beautiful book that I feel like many people missed out on in hardcover. And check out that pub date, because it's early February. So this is one I'd order before Christmas. I mean, we all know about the supply chain difficulties and delays at this point. And it is currently a National Book Award finalist. Really well deserved. The Guncle, something totally different and fun. It is the story of a gay uncle who suddenly finds himself in charge of his niece and nephew when his sister becomes ill. Think of Me, historical fiction, World War II, Francis Liaudet. And then The Call of Cthulhu. It says USA on sale date there, but that's Canadian on sale date too, February 22nd. Put this on here. It's a beautiful edition in paperback, and there's been an increase in interest in H.P. Lovecraft stories because of the new television show, Lovecraft Country. All right, then White Magic, Alyssa Washtua. This is another one that did well in hardcover, all about how Indigenous cultures and talismans and rituals and valuable things have been co-opted by white culture. Who Will Pay Reparations on My Soul? Truly stunning collection of essays all about the idea of paying reparations. Extreme North, sadly super relevant today, but this is all about Viking culture, but also how Viking culture has been used by far-right racist white power groups kind of in recent years, and why that is so wrong. Fake Accounts. This book was a head trip. I can't recommend it enough. Love that color. It's holographic in person, now in paperback. And that is it for the adult highlights of Penguin Spring 2022. Please take a peek at my other presentations. And as always, if you have any questions about what to order, how to submit an order, or want me to do it for you, just let me know. Thank you.